In Nucleum, you are industrialists working in the booming energy industry of Saxony fueled by nuclear energy. Players will take turns back and forth until the endgame conditions are met. There are 5 endgame conditions and the game will end when 2 of them or 3 of them in a 2-player game are met. On your turn, you may do one of 3 things. You may play an action tile to the top of your board and do both actions in either order. This also allows you to fulfill a contract. You may play an action tile down onto the board and you will do any actions that match colors. For instance, this orange and green both match the cities next to them, so you will do both of these actions. These matches may come from cities or other action tiles on that link. The last thing you may do is recharge, where you will gain income, spend achievements to gain milestone markers, and gain back your action tiles. Before we talk about the actions, let's quickly talk about networks. Some actions specify that they must be done in one of your networks. Your networks are made up of buildings in cities and railways that you own. And the size of that network is how many cities are in that network. So if I had a building in this city and nothing else, this is a network of 1. Also, if I had a railway connected to that city, this is also a network of 1, even if I didn't have a building in there. In this case, I would have a network of 2, as this railway connects to 2 cities. If there are multiple tracks in between a city, your network continues to the next city as long as you own at least one of those railways. And note that you are allowed to have multiple networks. Okay, now let's talk about these actions. The actions work in the same way whether you're doing them as a result of a railway color match or by putting them on top of your board. The urbanize action is how you build your buildings. You will pay the cost in the row of the building you want to build and you will place it on an open building space in one of your networks. Note that some spaces can only take certain kinds of building, either housing, factories, or laboratories. Anything can go in these red spaces, but they cost 2 extra dollars. The industrialize action is how you put out your uranium mines and your turbines. You will pay the cost in workers shown next to the row you want to build from, and then you'll place the mine in a hexagonal space in your network or the turbine in a circle space in your network. When you place a mine, you will immediately gain 1 uranium per mine you have on the board, in this case 2. These uranium may go onto any of your mines. The turbines are used during the energize action. Building turbines also gives you access to these bonuses, which are also used during the energize action. The develop action is how you gain new action tiles. You may buy 2 action tiles from the market, paying the cost in dollars beneath the tile. Note that the second tile you buy costs an additional $2, and then these go into your supply of tiles. The contract action is how you gain new contracts. When you do this action, you will choose either a silver or gold contract and place it next to your board here, immediately gaining the reward next to it. Remember that you may only fulfill a contract during a turn where you place a tile above your board. You will then gain the rewards at the bottom and then place it above your board here. Note that you may not reserve these purple contracts, but you may still complete them in the same way. You have to race for these ones. The last action is the energize action. This is how you bring power to your buildings, flipping them to their energized side, which are now worth endgame points. To do this, you will need to bring supplies, either uranium or coal, to at least one of the power plants and then bring that energy back to the building you want to power. Each building has a power cost shown here. To use coal power, you will bring coal from the 2 supplies at the side of the board along railways to the power plant. Note that during the energize action, you're allowed to use any railways, not just your own. Coal costs money and its price increases as it gets used, but it never runs out. You may also bring uranium from your mines using any railways to the power plant to use as well. Each power plant can process 1 uranium as long as it has a nucleum above it like this. If a power plant has turbines, it can process 1 more uranium per turbine there, and you're allowed to use another player's turbines, but you'll have to pay them $1 per turbine to do so. Each coal produces 1 power and each uranium produces 2 power. And this sum can be boosted if you have turbines on the board, and some action tiles give you extra energy as well. You then need to send that power to the building you want to energize, again through any railways. If you produce enough power to flip that building, you will do so. You will immediately gain the reward at the bottom, and now this building is worth endgame points. You will also gain achievement tokens equal to that building's power level, in this case 6. So those are the 5 actions you may do when you play your action tiles. Instead of playing an action tile, you may recharge. When you do so, you will gain your income shown at the top of your board. You have 3 kinds of income: dollars, workers, and points. Whenever you see the dollar, worker, or point symbol with the green arrow, you will bump that associated income up. Though note that when taking income, you only gain income up to the amount of action tiles that you played. So in this case, I would only gain income up to here, even though my income markers are over here. You will then turn in achievement tokens to gain milestones. For instance, if you turned in 8 achievement tokens, you will gain 1 of your stars and place it on the 8 spot, though you may place it lower if you want to. Note that you may only have 1 milestone marker in each colored tier. So if on the next recharge action, if I had 7 achievement tokens, I would be forced to place it in the lower tier here. These tiers will give you access to these milestones, which will score at the end of the game. Note if there is one of these nucleums next to the tier you placed in, you will place that nucleum in one of the power plants. Now that plant can process uranium. You will then discard all of your achievement tokens even if you didn't use them all. At the end of the recharge action, you will gain back all of your action tiles. So that's what you can do on your turn. Before we end, let's quickly talk about your technologies. Each player is given a unique technology board and a set of technologies. You will unlock these technologies by fulfilling contracts, energizing buildings, or by placing your milestone in the top tiers of the track. When you gain a technology, you will choose one of the technologies of the same tier, either 1, 2, or 3, and you'll place it in its matching spot. The blue technologies are immediate rewards that you'll gain, and then you'll flip the tile over. The brown technologies are ongoing abilities. And the final purple technology is endgame scoring. The game will continue with each player taking turns until 2 or 3 of the endgame conditions are met. The 5 endgame conditions are a player reaching 70 points, the action tile stacks are empty, the contract stacks are empty, all players have placed 3 milestone markers, and finally if a player unlocks all 8 of their technologies. Once 2 or 3 of these are met, you will finish that round and then play one more round, and then the game ends. At the end of the game, you will score any milestones you reached, you will score your purple technology if you unlocked it, every 2 uranium you own is 1 point, every 2 workers you have is 1 point, and every leftover 5 taller is 1 point. You will score points if you reach these spaces with your income marker, and finally you will score points for your energized buildings. And after all that, the player with the most points will win.